Hello everyone, I am the Magic Kirby. Welcome to my channel, the Commander Tavern. The Commander Tavern is a channel dedicated to my favorite Magic the Gathering format. The Brewery is a series on this channel showcasing my spicy brews and other deck checks. On this episode of the Brewery, I'll be discussing my own real in-life build for Yarok the Desecrated. If you like this deck or any of the cards I'll be mentioning throughout the video, please consider using my TCG Player affiliate link when purchasing those cards. You can find that link down in the description. It'll really help out the channel and no extra cost to you. But the very best way you can help support the channel is with my Patreon. There are plenty of perks for you patrons, such as early access to certain videos, exclusive deck techs, gifts, and more for as little as $1. You can also become a channel member for just 99 cents. Show off your support with a logo next to your name and exclusive emojis. Or you can always just support my channel for free by simply liking, subscribing, and sharing, which also helps out a lot. I put out a video every Monday, so you don't want to miss out. You can join my Discord server for free if you want to join the Commander Tavern community. All pertinent links are down in the description. Alright, let's get back to the episode. Yarok is a 3/5 elemental horror with Death Touch and Lifelink for 2 generic, 1 black, 1 green, and 1 blue. This commander has limitless potential because it makes permanents that enter the battlefield under your control trigger an additional time. The handfall triggers? Get another one. The permanent itself triggers upon entering, it triggers again. The world is literally your oyster with Yarok. You can make it as busted and oppressive as you want. Or maybe you're twisted like me and want something completely out of left field, absolutely fun and entertaining, yet still functional. Before going over how I made the most out of Yarok, let's get the redundancy out of the way, since opponents tend to consider Yarok a kill on-site commander. Fortunately, you could potentially recast it multiple times in a game thanks to having access to green. If not, at least the deck is running cards like Panharmonicon, Starfield Vocalist, Virtue of Knowledge, and Fractured Realms for backup. The Virtue has the added bonus of being cast as an instant that copies an activated or triggered ability you control before being sent on an adventure to be cast as an enchantment later on. Absolutely amazing here. You can also either cast or open Mirror Room before opening Fractured Realm. Doing so lets you create a token copy of any creature you control. And if you did this while controlling Yarok, you'd get 2 token copies instead. I love this card here, especially since this is a triggered ability that can happen again if you open Fractured Realm first. Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, Sakashima the Imposter, Spark Double, and Auton Soldier are more ways to copy Yarok's effect by copying Yarok itself. Granted, we need Yarok in play first, but you get the gist of it. Best of all, thanks to Auton Soldier having Myriad, if we had anything enter the battlefield at instant speed during combat, while we still have those token copies, we get even more additional triggers. Even if we just had our original copy plus the original Auton Soldier with its 2 copy tokens. That's 4 Yarok ability copies, so any ETB trigger essentially happens 5 times if done during combat. To that end, the deck's running instants like Essence Flux, Planner Incision, Siren's Ruse, Teferi's Time Twist, Displace, and Ghostly Flicker. These help us blink certain permanents at instant speed. Sure, these are best used in the previous niche scenario, but are also amazing on their own to just blink anything we wanted to blink for the advantage. Or to even protect from spot removal, since getting blinked has it return as a different instance of that object. Classic commander card Deadeye Navigator does it even better. Keep in mind that you're not chained to whatever it's soul bonded to. You can also have it blink itself and then return to the battlefield soul bonded to a different creature you want protected. You just need enough mana to do it twice. In any case, these instant speed effects are amazing to do things at the end of the turn before yours if you didn't need to do it, just to be effective and efficient. The deck still has cards like Thassa Deep Dwelling, Conjurer's Closet, and Ishtala Rule, which don't require any mana to use. Granted, you're trading timing and control for mana cost, but the deck has so many creatures with ETB effects that it won't matter when you do it. You'll still reap the rewards for doing it when these cards allow you to. Speaking of timing and instant speed, Alchemist's Refuge is included because it doesn't take up a slot on the deck and allows us to cast our spells with flash for a fair mana investment. Being able to cast our permanent-based interaction at instant speed is quite strong, regardless of whether we're taking advantage of Auton Soldier's tight Myriad window or not. Going back to copying triggers, we can also use Gogo, Master of Mimicry, to copy any trigger, not just enter the battlefield ones. I absolutely love this card. Being able to sink a ton of mana, thanks green, into the ability is absolute madness. Keep in mind that you can also copy activated abilities with this too, and we'll see a couple of key ones in a moment. On top of that, venturing through rooms in a dungeon is a triggered ability, so you can use Gogo's ability to copy that room's effect X times. And why do I mention dungeons? Because speedrunning through all the dungeons is how I have the most fun piloting this deck. I make the most of this via creatures that either literally say venture through the dungeon when entering the battlefield, or creatures that give us the initiative when entering the dungeon. While the initiative is a stronger mechanic, we can only venture through Undercity with it. Yes, we can continue venturing through the current dungeon if we're anywhere else, but if we're out of that dungeon or in no dungeon at all, it defaults to the Undercity. However, when I play with this deck, I always ask the following in pregame conversations. hey, are y'all cool with playing the initiative with Baldur's Gate Wilderness, like in the D&D Anniversary event? Why do I mention this? Because during that event, instead of venturing into Undercity when taking the initiative, you can venture into this one. So I asked during pre-game conversations so my opponents can determine if they want that possibility. However, I add a caveat to it where a player can choose which of the 2 dungeons they'll enter when taking the initiative, and they can even choose differently each time. That way, there's a potential to complete all 5 dungeons available so far as of the making of this video. Granted, you can only venture into the original 3 by the ability Venture into the Dungeon, so keep that in mind. In any case, the creatures with here ETB initiative are Ravenloft Adventurer, Undermountain Adventurer, and Tomb of Horrors Adventurer. Each of these creatures are amazing even apart from the initiative. The black one is amazing against reanimation decks, plus also provides pain once we complete a dungeon. The green one can tap for a massive amount of mana, which is something Gogo won't mind at all. The blue one lets us copy our second spell, which is absolutely busted here. Imagine copying something like Panharmonicon. Trailblazer's Torch also gives us the initiative upon entering. However, it's not so easy to blink like the creatures. That being said, equipping this to Yarok makes opponents not want to block it. Since Yarok has Death Touch, the damage is dealt before the creatures can even really block it. So Yarok kills every blocker before they can even deal any kind of damage to it. It's better than First Strike with Death Touch, making it synergize even better with the deck. Actually, if you're playing with any commander with Death Touch, consider adding this to your deck. Acererak the Archlich, Displacer Beast, and Eccentric Apprentice are the creatures with ETB venturing. While these aren't really anything to write home about, the fact that Acererak bounces itself if you haven't completed Tomb of Annihilation means that it alone can help us speedrun most dungeons available to us if we control a lot of ETB copying effects. Ellywick Tumblestrom also has this venture, but it's via her +1 loyalty ability. While that's pretty useful, we can't really copy it with anything apart from Gogo. That being said, she's here solely due to her emblem. Having all of our creatures essentially permanently gain trample, haste, and +2/+2 for each differently named dungeon completed is enough to run her. Especially if your pod agrees with also allowing Baldur's Gate Wilderness in the game. Notice that Steelwatch Foundry, one of the last rooms in this dungeon, gives us a similar emblem. Sure, it's only trample and a single instance of +2/+2, but imagine copying that room or Ellywick's emblem ability for that matter. In any case, the deck is also running Dungeon Delver, allowing us to trigger rooms an additional time. This becomes absolute insanity when speedrunning through so many dungeons. Even if we're just speedrunning through Undercity multiple times since that last room is so busted. Just look at it. Cheat in any creature from the top 10 cards in your library, plus give it 3 +1/+1 counters and hexproof for a turn. Imagine doing that multiple times in a game, let alone in a single instance of venturing. I love Ellywick so much that I'm running Cards Bastion just to make her ultimate faster. It's the only card in the deck with Proliferate, but it's worth it to me since it doesn't take up a slot in the deck. Yes, that's how devoted I am to getting her emblem in a game once I draw into her. That's how much I love the dungeon mechanic. But dungeons aren't my only favorite fun and kooky mechanic in Magic the Gathering. Now before I say them, hear me out before you turn away after mentioning them. Because I'm going to talk about stickers. Don't worry though, there's only a single sticker effect in the deck and it's commander legal. That is Ambassador Blorpityblorpboop. When it enters, we get 3 tickets and can then put a sticker on a long land permanent we own. With enough additional ETB trigger effects, we can get these in increments. Keep in mind that you get to go 3 tickets at a time, so if you want an expensive sticker, you have to hold off putting on a sticker each time. But what do I do this for? To make Yarok an absolute beast. Here are the 10 stickers I'm using. We can make Yarok 1313 with the second ability sticker of the first sheet, give it a pinging effect with the second ability sticker of the second sheet, making it kill anything without indestructibility, shroud, or hexproof. Be able to cast it from the graveyard with the second sticker ability of the third sheet, make all of our creatures absolutely massive with the second ability sticker of the fourth sheet since it's an ETB trigger, deal a ton of damage to a player's face with the second ability sticker of the fifth sheet since it's an ETB trigger, give it hexproof with the second ability sticker of the sixth sheet, give it persist with the second ability sticker of the seventh sheet, as well as being able to give it a base power toughness of 10/10 with the second power toughness sticker on it, give it undying with the second ability sticker of the eighth sheet, and if you manage to get these two within those random 3 sticker sheets at the beginning of the game, Yarok is essentially unkillable due to having both undying and persist. Or make it outright indestructible with the second ability sheet of the 9th sheet. We can also draw a ton of cards thanks to the second ability sticker of the 10th sheet, especially if no one wants to or is able to block Yarok. In any case, all of these sticker sheets are amazing for Yarok, whether abilities or a better base power toughness. Granted, the Ambassador is the only way to put a sticker on it, in the deck at least, but imagine blinking the Ambassador or getting extra copies of its triggers. We'll have an absolute beast of a commander thanks to it, since the stickers stay on it unless it's tucked or bounced. We can also make Yarok dangerous with Rogue's Passage, another amazing land that doesn't take up a spell slot. Once Yarok is dangerous, we can pretty much end the game if it's unblockable while no one can interact with it. Going back to my favorite mechanics, don't leave just yet either, but attractions is another one. This courtesy clerk is the only one I'd run in the deck. I focus mostly on speedrunning dungeons, but a single ETB attraction opener is good enough if I ever draw it into a game. This particular one also has the potential for card advantage if we have enough attractions. Given how we can get additional triggers like nothing, it shouldn't be that hard, especially if we blink it too. These are the attractions I'm running in the deck. I chose them in such a way so as to maximize how many are visited at once versus maximizing how many are visited per roll. For example, most of these will trigger when rolling a 4 or higher if possible. Unlike the stickers, these haven't been min-maxed in terms of abilities. Every legal, differently named attraction is in my attraction deck. Now, while stickers and attractions are undoubtedly legal in Commander, contraptions technically aren't illegal in Commander. They have no acorn stamp, are not silver bordered, and having a different card back is no longer a reason to not be legal. Just look at attractions. Therefore, contraptions technically are legal in Commander. Since Yarok has green in its color identity, you're even able to include each of the 45 contraptions printed as of the recording of this video, since one of them has a green mana symbol in its text box. That's why I can only have 44 of them in my mirror deck. In any case, unfortunately, no card that can assemble a contraption is currently legal in Commander. However, even if the contraptions themselves were legal, you can't assemble any of them legally. So, in order to run the sole card in the deck capable of assembling a contraption when entering the battlefield, you need permission from your pod during pre-game discussion if they'll allow you to rule 0 it in. If so, that card is Joyride Rigger. While it's clearly nothing to write home about, it's strong enough to survive most pinging effects. Plus, it's not broken, which might sway the table to let you run it via Rule 0. This would be the only silver-bordered card in the deck. I usually convince by providing them the alternative. I can either run a Joyride Rigger or Kodama of the East Tree, your choice. And it tends to be greenlit just by how busted this Kodama is with Yarok. You can essentially dump your whole hand by playing a single thing. And when you're drawing a ton of cards, it can get pretty nasty. So more often than not, Kodama is swapped out for Joyride Rigger. Alright, so enough with the fun stuff. If the deck does its thing, can it even win? Well, yes. It turns out that speedrunning all dungeons multiple times is enough to get that W. However, we still need ways to draw cards, interact with the board, protect our board, etc. To that end, the deck is running Sicarian Infiltrator. Squad works like multi-kicker but triggers when entering the battlefield. This forces some interesting maths to figure out. If you paid the squad cost twice and did not control Yarok, you'd only create 2 copies of it when it enters. However, if you did control Yarok, you'd create that many tokens an additional time, for a total of 4 copies when it enters. If that wasn't enough, you'd draw 10 cards, 2 per copy, and 2 from the original, since that ETB effect would also trigger an additional time. I love this card here. Arbiter of Woe also draws this card from entering. While it does cost a whopping 6 mana to cast and requires sacrificing a creature on top of that, it's a 5/4 flyer that has each opponent discard a card and lose 2 life when entering. Imagine getting additional triggers of that, or blinking it multiple times in a turn. Definitely worth that casting cost. Spelunking also draws us a card when entering, but can't really be blinked easily due to not being a creature. That being said, we also drop a land from our hand when it enters, so we can empty a lot of lands and draw a lot of cards with enough Yarok effects in play. On top of that, our lands enter untapped, which is an amazing bonus. Guardian Project, Soul of the Harvest, and the Great Hedge trigger when any non-token creature enters under our control. The amount of cards these things draw us is potentially insane. On top of that, the Hedge gives +1/+1 counters to those creatures. Plus, it's a double green Soul Ring that gains its life, helping accelerate mana as well. Reliquary Tower, Thought Vessel, and Decanter of Endless Water are included due to how many cards this deck can draw. Keep in mind that many dungeon rooms also draws cards. The Mana Rocks tapping for mana is just a bonus, albeit a welcome one, just like the Hedge. The only per se Mana Rock in the deck is Soul Ring, but that's to be expected. At least it pays for the double generic in Yarok's casting cost. Speaking of mana acceleration, Yarok can also help with that with Overlord of the Hauntwoods. Early game, it can be cast with Impending to get that Everywhere token. But after becoming a creature or after having a Yarok type effect in play, this thing just pops out Everywhere tokens like nothing. The level of mana acceleration thanks to this thing is staggering. Go-Go is much appreciative. Granted, Farseek, Nature's Lore, 3 Visits, and Into the North are still included because I'm not a fool. You gotta make the most of having access to green. Thanks to the 3 snow duels and 3 of each snow-covered basic, Into the North is absolutely amazing here and worth the slot. As for ways to interact with the table, The deck is mostly running permanent base removal, which is why the previously mentioned Alchemist Refuge is so handy. We've got Invasion of Ravnica and Terastodon for permanents. Granted, the battle exiles a non-land permanent so long as it isn't exactly 2 colors, but that tends to not really be an issue. Terastodon is just a triple Beast Within, which is also in the deck. Imagine having this enter with a lot of extra trigger effects in play. Sure, an opponent would just get that many elephants, but I've had games where I just used it on myself to turn a bunch of everywhere tokens into elephant tokens. It's all about how you use it. As for the battle, I never worry about transforming it because the backside does nothing in this deck. That being said, since it is a creature, it's easier to blink, having it return as a battle again, giving you that exile trigger when entering. Invasion of Fiora and Sephiroth Planet's Heir provide mass interaction with their entering triggers. Sephiroth becomes a one-sided board wipe if you have enough additional trigger effects in play, since the -2/-2 will just multiply each time, hopefully killing most things. If that weren't enough, if the board is wiped, Sephiroth becomes that much stronger. So good. As for the battle, transforming it into Marquesa isn't entirely necessary, but like the previous battle, that makes it easier to then blink Marquesa and have her return as the battle, giving us a sort of repeatable board wipe. Absolutely busted. Fear of Imposters, Atari Resurrected, Frilled Mystic, Mystic Snake, Overcharged Amalgam, and Sister of Silence all have flash, and for good reason, since they're counter magic effects. These are pretty straightforward. You keep mana open to flash them in, and counter what needs countering. Best of all, you can blink these in a pinch to reuse that effect. So good. Bajuka Bog and Boga Trawler help to show up the board by dealing with graveyard strategies. Those decks tend to run away with the game, especially with more casual games, which is what this one is somewhat tailored to. Plus, they don't take up a spell slot, so they're worth including. This deck doesn't have instants or sorceries for its interaction, but is running at least Heroic Intervention to protect our board. You just can't go wrong with such a great spell. I mean, Lightning Greaves, Swift of Boots, Champion's Helm, and Mithril Coat are still included to protect Yarok, Gogo, etc. Hopefully, Yarok has protective stickers which are much better and harder to get rid of, but the equipment are just fine. Mystic Sanctuary and Archaeomancer are included to recover those blink spells. Thanks to the blink spells, you can actually blink Archaeomancer time and time again if you keep recovering the blink spells used on it. Especially with an additional trigger effect in play, since you can recover the spell used to blink it, along with something else like Into the North, Heroic Intervention, Peace Within, etc. The Sanctuary is especially amazing when done at instant speed thanks to the half the deck's fetch lands. With multiple extra trigger effects, you can recover as many instants and sorceries as you want, even if they just end up top decked instead of to your hand. Eternal Witness and Timeless Witness can recover any card to your hand and are essentially way better than Archaeomancer. Archaeomancer is just an extra copy of these two, at least for the blink spells. But with an extra trigger effect in play, either of these will recover the blink spell cast to reuse them, along with what you actually wanted to recover from the graveyard. The rest of the deck is just the rest of the lands. Of those not already mentioned, the deck's running all 3 shock lands, both color fixing lands, Zaggoth Triumph, Command Tower, and Ancient Tomb, as well as 3 of each snow-covered basic lands for the pertinent land-based mana acceleration effects like previously mentioned. While Ancient Tomb is the only game changer in the deck, even if I removed it for something like Obilin Palace, I'd still consider this deck to be bracket 3 since it's possible to counter any and all spells in a game with Deadeye Navigator or the other blinking hijinxes. In any case, as with all of my deck techs, you can build your mana base according to your budget. Whether you include more expensive cards or even cheaper cards is up to you. You do you. Similarly, if you want to up the bracket for your own build, go for it. This build is just an idea of how to build around Yarok the Desecrated. An oldie but a goodie, this is one of my favorite decks because I can really make janky and fun mechanics shine. If you trigger something like Venture enough times, it actually becomes quite strong. Same with assembling a ton of contraptions at once or opening a ton of attractions at once. I love playing this deck in real life, especially when I pull out the massive 8x11-inch official copy of Baldur's Gate Wilderness. If you're interested in the deck list of this spicy brew of mine, you can find a link to it down in the description. I would like to thank all my patrons for supporting me, and a quick shout out to all my higher tier patrons, the brewers, for their patronage. I'd also like to thank anyone using my TCG Player affiliate link. That also helps out the channel. I also want to thank any channel members. Your membership is greatly appreciated. And to everyone, thanks for watching this episode of The Brewery on the Commander Tavern. I am the Medic Kirby, and happy brewing.